Hi, I'm Joanne Splunskowski, and this is the Museum Roadshow, and we're out on the road today, and we're out in Holmesville Township of Becker County, and we're with Roger Engstrom again today because Roger has so many fascinating stories about life and about the early days of Becker County to share with us that we just thought that we needed another opportunity to talk with you, Roger. Roger, you're very involved with the Century Farm program, and that you make the awards at the Becker County Fair each year. And can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in the Century Farm program?
Well, in 1986 we started recognizing Century Farms at the Becker County Fair. The state was doing this, and I thought that at the county level we should do it as well. We recognized our first farm that year, and since then the program has grown. I think we've recognized almost 60 farms now in the last 20 years.
Wow, that's a lot of farms to recognize. Well, we picked this site today out here because this site has some significant meaning to you.
Yes, this is where my grandfather spent his first winter, living in a dugout below this hill on the north end of Pickerel Lake. My grandfather pooled his money with the August Danielson family and the John Runnerston family in 1893, and they purchased this site from the Northern Pacific Railroad. It was 345 acres. They paid around $1,596 for it, and they came here the first week of November. There was 4 men. August Danielson's 20-year-old stepson Adolph was along with them, and I think that these men relied on Adolph a lot because at 20 years old he would be in his prime at that time. And these guys built 3 log cabins that winter, and in the spring, on April 26, 1894, then the women and children came. And they had a log cabin to live in after these men had spent their winter living in a dugout.
Now, they had spent their earlier days when they first got to the country, coming over from the old country in Michigan, and had been working in mines, I understand.
Correct.
So they were wanting some of the promised land out here in Minnesota. So they all 3 came to this location, and it's amazing because these families took and bought 345 acres of land, and they shared it. They didn't divide it up right away. How long was it before it was even recorded on paper?
7 years. They decided one day we need to go to the town and go to the courthouse and get this all straight, because they knew in their own minds they had their plots picked out, but they didn't have it recorded at the courthouse yet.
Well, and those 4 men lived in that dugout for the first year.
First winter.
And then they built log cabins for their families and then brought them out here. Now at the museum, we have a diorama. Mr. Danielson's great-great-granddaughter, for a school project, built a replica of that dugout that they spent their first winter in, and that's at the museum, and you can see that at any time and read the story about the Century Farms of these 3 families. And you guys got together then and put up this stone monument to their work, what their accomplishments in the area. Now you're still living on a part of that land.
Yes.
Now that makes it, well, over 100 years if you're a part of the Century Farm. How long?
113 years that this Engstrom land has been in the same family.
Wow, and a wonderful location. And so if you're living, what does it take to be Century Farms? I mean, I understand 100 years in the same family.
They have to be at least 50 acres in size, being in the family for 100 years. And some people get a little confused on this because back in the 30s, times were really tough. And some of these families actually lost their farms. But when they lost them, there was no place else to go. They had to have a place to live, so the bank or whatever was holding the mortgage on said, well, you just stay there, which they did. And then they got their farms back again when things got squared around. They got them back and continued living on them. Now that still counts as a Century Farm because you were just interrupted there for a short time. As long as you still own the land.
And 50 acres of the land, and you're still on it. So if you're out there and you think you might qualify for a Century Farm, you get hold of Roger Engstrom, and I'm sure he'll give you all the particulars about how to get your family farm recognized as a Century Farm. And at some point, if you're out on a country drive and you want to stop by, we're out here on the northeast Pickerel Lake Road. and stop by and visit the monument, and maybe if you see Roger out here tooling around, you can stop and talk to him about his family experience. Wonderful setting out here, and I think there are so many of them out there in the county. And Roger, I appreciate all that you've done for the county and trying to keep the old history alive and help people recognize that by keeping the old alive, we'll teach the young for the future. And I want to thank you for all your hard work. Well, thanks for visiting with us on the Museum Roadshow, and we'll see you next time.